foul. That was absolutely ridiculous.
The Boston Bruins have won the Stanley Cup.
Up on down. Here comes a 1-2 pitch. Red Sox win the World Series.
I don't know. It's tough. Tom's up there, man. Being tough.
What's up, Boston Bruins? Boston Bruins.
What's going on YouTube? It's your boy Jess Almeida here on YouTube and from Beach Hot Takes. We're back again with another video, and today we're reacting to this late game trend should have Bruins fans worried. Well, yeah, duh. And the reasoning for that is because the Bruins have been on a skid. And by skid, I mean like an alarming skid. If you lose in overtime, for me at least, like in my eyes at least, let's have this discussion right now. If you lose in overtime and you don't lose in a shootout, you shouldn't be awarded a point. Because I feel like, for me at least, the overtime loss where you get a point, it bails teams out sometimes. It doesn't really show how good a team actually is. I really think if you go into shootout, then you get a point. And the reason why I'm saying that is because in the playoffs, there's no shootout. You know what I mean? You go into overtime, it's like regular hockey in the playoffs. You go into overtime, 5-on-5, 20-minute period, so on and so forth. You win the game, you win the game. You lose the game, you lose the game. And I know in overtime in the regular season is 3-on-3. I understand that it's not quote-unquote actual hockey. Well, you know what? In extra innings in baseball, it's not actual extra innings either because you start a runner on second base. There's no cookie for them losing in extra innings or whatever. They don't get a cookie for that or whatever. It's just a loss at the end of the day. And I feel like it should be the same way with hockey. Like, you want to keep the point system? Fine. But tweak it up a little bit. If you lose in overtime and you don't go into shootout, chalk it up as an L. The team shouldn't get a point. If you lose in shootout, then you should get a point. I feel like the overtime loss doesn't really show how good a team is. That's just my opinion, though. But is it time to stress about the Bruins? Hate to say it, yeah, it kind of is. Because this is deja vu all over again. If you just watch the games in general, they choke their games away. We went to a game not too long ago where they faced the LA Kings. They were up by what, 2-3 goals, whatever it was, and they choked that game away. How do you choke that game away? That's just your typical Boston Bruins who choke in the clutch, who have dumb penalties, who have dumb giveaways that lead to breakaways and lead to goals, so on and so forth. That's your Bruins. That's been your Bruins the last couple years, really. So what are they going to do at the trade deadline? I have no idea what they're going to do at the trade deadline. They have to do something. They have to do something. Because right now, if they keep going the way they have been going, this team is not going to make it past the first round. They're not going to make it past the first round. As much as I want to see this team succeed, they have a lot of work to do at this trade deadline. React to this video here from WEI 93.7. Leave a thumbs up if you guys enjoy these videos. I don't know if you guys knew you guys know what to do. Go check out our website. The link's in the description down below. Without further ado, stop straight into this video.
Are going on. Really, they're coming home now.
Thank
after
God.
This. A week ago it was, they need to get out of town. Yeah. And they get 5 of 8 points on the trip, but it feels really hollow because of whether it's an overtime loss or a loss in a shootout or even a win in a shootout. Last night, the Bruins, again, Pasta gets them up early. Pasta's really the only guy offensively with any sort of heartbeat. You turn around and you look, and the Bruins are 4-3 losers in a shootout once again. And the bigger question, like for me, Christian, it's not so much the what happens in overtime or what happens in a shootout. It's the why are they going to overtime? Because and it's one thing I do hate about the NHL, but I get it because of TV constraints, is that the rules are different in the regular season than they are in the postseason once you go to overtime.
Okay. I'm not the only one who hates it.
This is the unique situation of getting the 3-on-3, and you're just looking at when you go to overtime, it's real overtime come the playoffs. But I think, Christian, the bigger question is there a mental hang-up with this team to where they have a 3-2 lead and then they blow it late, and then they're going into multiple overtimes come the postseason and completely draining themselves? So I don't know if it is so much what has happened in overtimes and shootouts as it is there a real problem in why they keep going to overtime? And is that potentially the fatal flaw?
Good debate.
Yeah,
good
and it's
debate.
and if you could, even if you go to last night's game, so Olmark had a really boneheaded play where he's trying to knock the puck out of the air, out of the zone, and it ricochets off somebody else, and he gives up a goal. That you could literally look to that one particular goal and say, well, that could have been the difference of the game. So then they're leading 1-0, then they're tied 1-1. Now then they're up 2-1, then they're tied 2-2. Then they go down 3-2, then they tie it up at 3-3.
It's amazing.
It is a lot. It's almost like, they sit there and say they can't hold the lead, and why can't they hold it? And then in the third period, do they just, is it just too much complacency? Is it too much just, okay, we've been here before, we'll figure it out? Honest to God, I don't know, because if you listen to Montgomery, he doesn't seem worried, because I would say, is this time,
and that's why I hate the overtime. Sometimes I feel like teams just play to get to overtime. Say, you know what? Get to overtime. Let's get at least a point in the standings. If we get the 2 points, great. If not, we get at least a point. If you're going to lose a game, lose it in overtime. I feel like that's what the mentality is with the team. If you're going to lose a game, lose it in overtime at least so you get a point in the standings still. And I hate that. I hate that mindset, because when it comes to the playoffs, you can't have that mentality. You can't have that. You have to go in there and get a win no matter how you do it or whatever. You have to find a way to win the game. Not play for the overtime and put yourself in bad situations. It's a trend with this team. It's just a trend.
Is this something that you should be focusing on, something that will come back to bite you in the postseason?
Here's a little bit of Monty after the game, not only talking about overtime, but other, everything that kind of goes into what Christian just talked about.
And we talked about it in between the second about being aggressive offensively, so that we could, we want to have a killer instinct, also extend leads.
So is it lack of focus? Is it...
No, I don't think it's... I don't know. No, I think it's... sometimes when you're in that situation and things don't go well, you wait for things to happen instead of making things happen. I think we're waiting for things to happen. We don't have the right attitude to start thirds with the lead.
Okay, so the whole killer instinct, I heard Pasternak talk about this also. Somebody asked him about it, because this is the new narrative. They don't have a killer instinct. That's the new narrative.
They say it, they kind of don't.
Reporter asked Pasternak about it, kind of hemmed and hawed and didn't really answer it. Montgomery obviously mentioned it himself, which I was surprised by, to be honest with you. And I would just say, what does that even mean? To me, sometimes the whole killer instinct is such a kind of a vague term. You're trying to score, you're hoping to score, you're being aggressive, but maybe they just played a little bit.
I think by my term of killer instinct is wearing down your opponent, whether that's hitting them in the boards or making them fight for every single possession to grab the puck or whatever, the little battles, whatever, the battles on the boards, so on and so forth. That's what I feel like with killer mentality. And then you just put it in the you put the dagger in their throats by scoring a goal or whatever. That's what I feel like the killer mentality is. It's just the grind to win little battles on the boards, playing good defense, hitting guys on the boards, wearing them down for your time to strike. That's my definition of killer mentality. They don't have that.
But better. Maybe you don't have the right personnel. So even though you have one guy that's getting all the goals, I don't know if it actually I don't really know if that's the actual answer. Like, is the reason why they are losing these overtime games because they don't have a killer instinct?
No, I think it is more rooted in defense, and there is the backstop of overtime and the shootout. And again, you look at it, and it's not like the Bruins didn't come away with points on this trip. It's the damn. In this instance, it was you were down 3-2, scored to tie it, then went to overtime. I don't know how that isn't some level of, say, killer instinct and killer instinct might be wrong. It at least shows you there's fight and there's fire in this team, and it isn't just, well, we're up 3-2 and we gave up a goal. Now it's tied. Woe is me. I don't think that is this group. And I also don't think that Monty is just sort of like whistling past the graveyard and is completely blind to what is going on. But I do think there is the heavy kind of reliance in the belief that, okay, it's 5-on-5 in overtime in the postseason. We play real hockey after 60 minutes still in the postseason, and that's what the Bruins are built for. Really what they need, I think, Christian, they need a bit of a shakeup. They need a jolt. And that's where it gets
a jolt of what?
Well,
because they've been moving the lines around for a while now.
No. They need they need another body. It's now time, in my opinion, for the Bruins where you've got to consider flipping Ullmark because he's the guy who makes more money. And the Bruins, you could argue, if the Bruins got another defenseman, if they could find a top 4 defenseman in a trade for Ullmark, now it sort of resets everyone. You refresh the defense. You bring in another body. You get arguably one of those olds off the ice, and I'm not down on Shattenkirk, don't get me wrong, or anything like that. But I'm
also missing Lindholm, who's been hurt.
And look, I know Linus has been. Lindholm has been hurt. Forbort got suspended for a game because he missed a meeting. Like that. That's never good. But Don Sweeney's
he can go.
Don Sweeney's got to do something to sort of shake this up a little bit. Mark in Medford with Gresham Fourier. Hello, Mark.
Don't mind me. I
don't want to hear the Lindholm is hurt crap because Lindholm has been missing all year. The guy was a Norris Trophy candidate last season. The guy's a shell of himself right now. I wouldn't mind not seeing him, Grizzly, or Carlo on the ice ever again. And yes, trade Ullmark. There is no need to have 2 number 1 goalies. If Bussy is the goalie they say he is, then he's more than adequate enough to back up Jeremy Swayman.
Mark, early morning hockey call. I love it. To bring the fire. Here's the thing with Don Sweeney in this trade deadline.
Yeah, I mean,
last year, it was obvious they believed that they had a legitimate chance at the Stanley Cup. Legitimate chance. Bertuzzi.
They did.
Orlov.
They did have a legitimate
Hathaway,
chance
right?
last year.
So they
100%.
gave up all their first-round picks. They don't have a first-round pick this year. They only have, I think, a 4.
Well, they gave up their 1, 2, and 3 for the 24 draft, and they have their first and third rounder in 2025. I do believe the second round 25 pick was a part of the Garnett Hathaway deal.
So if you believe that last year they were all in, so they obviously made moves. I just don't know if it's worth it to trade Ullmark unless you get something significant that you believe will legitimately help you win a Stanley Cup.
Right.
Because you're going to want to trade him and move him when the value is there. And the return is something really good. Right? And I don't know if they can do that this year or if they even think it's worth it because they know this year was so much different than last year. Like last year, breaking records, everybody thought that was their time. It didn't work out. Do you think that they believe they have a Stanley Cup team?
Yeah. How could they not?
Well, then they should trade, and then they should treat it the same way they did last year.
Yep.
I don't think they do.
I don't know. Do the other teams with 82 points at the top of the NHL look around and go, nah, we're not really a contender? That makes no sense to me whatsoever.
But if last year was the indicator of them declaring to the hockey world that they were there, and then they chased it, right? Did they not?
They did.
Well, yeah, but they had every good reason to.
Agreed. And do you think it's the same this year?
Well, yeah.
Oh, I don't think so.
I don't
Christian,
think so either.
it's not.
I don't think so.
It
I don't
doesn't.
think they're as good as
Last
the
year's
standings say they
team
are.
doesn't matter. It's what matters is the rest of the league, and relative to the rest of the league, the Bruins are one of the top 4 contenders for the Stanley Cup. I mean,
Top 4 in the league? I don't know if I agree with you with that, man. I don't know, man. I think there are quite a few teams that I look at and I say they have a better chance at the Stanley Cup than the Boston Bruins. The Florida Panthers are one example. The New York Rangers are a second example. I could even argue with you Carolina might have a better chance right now. I could argue with you the Winnipeg Jets have had a nice year this year. Dallas has looked decent. Colorado, you can never count them out. Vancouver has looked great. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams. 7 teams that I look at and say they have an argument to be ahead of the Bruins in the Stanley Cup race. I don't care what the points say. I really could care less. If you're winning more games than the Bruins right now, which all those teams that I've named right there, right, have won more games than the Bruins this season, I give them a better chance. I give them a better chance of winning the Stanley Cup.
I don't know how last year ties into this year, other than there's a depletion of assets, which I think now forces Don Sweeney to have to say, I'm going to have to pluck somebody off the roster to go make a move.
And the money issue with that. They're going to have to take away to add. They have no money to add.
And there are a lot of teams like that. So I think when you look across the NHL, I think there could end up being some matches. But then again, it's got to work for everybody.
I got a question for you guys as we close up this video here. Which, by the way, leave a thumbs up if you guys enjoy these videos. Subscribe if you guys know what to do. Go check out our website. The link's in the description down below. I got a question for you guys right now. I got a genuine question for you guys. Is there a possibility that the Bruins stay put? Like, they don't make a move at the trade deadline. Is there a possibility, because of the fact that they just went all in last year, they traded away their first, second, and third round pick this year, they gave up picks, so on and so forth, they gave up future assets, and they didn't win it last year? Is there a possibility that this team doesn't make a move at the trade deadline and they just stay put with the team that they have now? It's kind of a question I got to leave you guys on this video here. So, thank you guys for watching this video. It's been your boy Jesse, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Later, guys.